It was a Tuesday morning when everything changed. I remember the way the sunlight slipped through the kitchen blinds, soft and hopeful, painting golden stripes across the marble counter. I was standing barefoot, wrapped in a cotton robe, a warm cup of tea resting between my palms. There was jasmine in the air from the candle I'd lit earlier, the same one I always lit on big days. Hopeful days, because that day was supposed to be the day. The day I finally booked the last round of IVF, the cycle I had worked 3 long years to afford, quiet sacrifices, skipped vacations, freelance jobs stacked on weekends, all for a chance at a child I hadn't even met yet, but already loved more than anything. I opened my phone to check the clinic's portal, but a notification flashed across the screen. Large withdrawal alert. Bank of Summit. I blinked. My thumb hovered, then tapped. My stomach dropped before my brain caught up. The balance of my fertility fund account read $0.03, $47,000. Gone. I stared at the screen, the numbers refusing to make sense. I tried to rationalize. A glitch? A system error? Some kind of fraud? My hands trembled as I clicked into the transaction details. There it was. A wire transfer, processed 2 days ago. The recipient account name? Ethan McConnell, my husband. Still, I couldn't breathe. I told myself maybe it was temporary. Maybe he moved the money to avoid a tax penalty. Maybe he had a reason. I reached for my laptop, heart racing, fingers fumbling over the keys. I searched our shared emails, looking for any mention of it. That's when I saw the second email, booking confirmation, the Pearl at Vela Private Island. Maldives, 5-star, overwater villas. I clicked it. Guest 1, Ethan McConnell. Guest 2, Dana Walsh, my sister. I froze. My heart didn't just pound, it roared. Louder than the world, louder than my own thoughts. I told myself there was a mistake. There had to be. I even laughed, one of those dry, brittle laughs that sound like paper tearing. Maybe she was booking it for someone else. Maybe she got married and Ethan helped. Maybe. Then I opened Instagram, and it all shattered. There they were, smiling in a boomerang clip, clinking champagne glasses on a private balcony. The ocean glittered behind them. Dana wore a silky white slip dress. Ethan's arm curled around her, waist like it belonged there. The caption read, "Grateful for this life." On New Beginnings, tagged location, Maldives. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just stood there in the kitchen, frozen. My tea had gone cold. My knees gave slightly, but I didn't fall. I couldn't even feel my legs. I just kept reading the comments. You two are glowing. Wait, is this official? You make such a beautiful couple. They didn't even try to hide it. I don't know how long I stood there. Minutes? An hour. The day moved on around me. Cars passed outside. Birds chirped. The neighbors' dog barked twice. But my world stayed still, like someone had hit pause on the life I thought I was living. I sat down on the floor. Cold tile. Blank mind. Numb skin. The only sound in the room was the quiet hum of the refrigerator, and my own heartbeat, thudding like distant thunder in a hollow chest. I looked at the framed photo on the shelf above the coffee maker. The 3 of us at my wedding. Dana holding my veil. Ethan holding my hand. Me smiling like a fool between them. I couldn't feel my body anymore. Just the sharp, burning sting of betrayal cutting through every memory I ever trusted. And somewhere deep beneath the hurt was silence. And in that silence, something began to crack. Ethan walked into my life with a kind of confidence that made you lean in before you even understood why. We met at a friend's engagement party, one of those rooftop affairs where Everyone's name sounded like it belonged in a legal firm or on a designer label. I was awkwardly nursing a cranberry spritzer and trying to make small talk with someone who thought accounting was a personality trait when he approached me. He didn't lead with a compliment. He led with a question. Do you believe in luck, or do you believe in timing? I remember raising an eyebrow. That depends, I said. Is this your opening line or an existential trap? He laughed, a deep, chesty kind of laugh, and told me it was both. That night, we talked until the skyline turned indigo. I told myself it was just conversation, nothing more. But something in me had already shifted. He had a way of looking at you, like you were the only person in the room, like your thoughts were worth hearing. I hadn't realized how starved I was for that kind of attention until I had it. He told me he wanted something real, a home, a partner, a life that mattered. And somehow, he made me believe I could give him all of it. We moved fast. Too fast, if you ask anyone now. But in the beginning, it felt like we were racing towards something golden. Then there was Dana, my younger sister. Half whirlwind, half child, all chaos. She had a laugh that turned heads in every room, and a recklessness she wore like perfume. Growing up, I was the responsible one. The one who did the dishes, paid the bills, reminded her not to trust boys who said they liked poetry. But I loved her. God, I loved her. Protected her. Mothered her. Even when I shouldn't have. When our parents passed a few years apart, she unraveled. I was the one who picked up the threads, got her a job, covered her rent once or twice, listened to her heartbreaks, held her hair on bathroom floors, so when she told me she just adored Ethan, I smiled. When she said he was so easy to talk to, I agreed. When she laughed too loudly at his jokes, or leaned a little too close at holidays, I ignored the pinpricks in my gut, because they were family, and I trusted them both. Ethan proposed on a rainy Sunday on the porch of our new home, the one we were fixing up together. He slipped a silver ring onto my finger and said, "This house is ours, and whatever happens, we'll build something beautiful in it." He said he wanted kids. Not right away, but soon. He said he wanted a legacy. Someone to carry his name, his smile, his ambition. So we tried. And we failed. Cycle after cycle. Negative test after negative test. I started charting temperatures, memorizing my ovulation windows like sacred math. My body became a project, a problem, a machine that kept breaking. Every month I'd find myself curled up in the bathroom, blood where there should have been life. Ethan held me, told me not to blame myself. But his voice grew thinner each time, less warmth, more weariness. One night he said, "Maybe this just isn't meant to be. Maybe we're meant for something different." I cried for 3 hours after that. Still, I couldn't let go. I took on extra freelance work, tutored on weekends, canceled vacations, and slowly, quietly, I started a fund, my own IVF account, separate from our joint savings. I didn't want to pressure him. I told myself this was for us. I was fighting for our dream. When I hit the $47,000 mark, I remember buying a bottle of Blue Orchid perfume, a little gift to myself. I told myself I'd wear it the day we brought our baby home. I never imagined I'd never get to open it. Looking back now, I see the signs, the way Dana started showing up more. Bringing wine, cooking Ethan's favorite pasta just because. The way she'd joke about how boring I'd become, always tired, always scheduling around fertility windows. She'd nudge Ethan and say, "Don't let her forget how to have fun." I saw the way his eyes lingered sometimes, not on me. The way his phone buzzed more at night. The way they never seemed uncomfortable around each other anymore. But I didn't ask questions. I didn't want to hear answers I wasn't ready for. I kept telling myself, they would never. Not them. Not the two people I trusted most in this world. And so I kept building, kept trying, kept dreaming of a baby who never arrived, while they planned their escape using the money I saved for a miracle. I used to believe betrayal came loud, shouting, slamming doors, screaming matches. But this betrayal was soft. It came with inside jokes and fake smiles, with whispered secrets passed between two people who said they loved me. It came with borrowed money, with silence, with stolen futures. And when it finally arrived, in the form of a bank notification and an Instagram caption, it was already too late. They weren't sorry. They were celebrating. The first thing I did was call him. I don't even remember dialing. Just that the phone was suddenly pressed to my ear, and my fingers were clenched so tightly around it they went white. Ethan picked up on the third ring, sounding groggy and casual, like it was any other day. Hey, babe. 2 words. Normal. Every day. Words I once loved hearing. I couldn't speak at first. Just listened to the silence that followed. He waited, then added with a yawn, "Everything okay?" "The Fertility Fund," I finally said, my voice a whisper. "Where is it?" There was a pause. The kind that splits the earth. "What do you mean?" "I mean the $47,000 I saved. It's gone. And I know you took it." His voice changed, sharpened. "Amelia, calm down. Let's not jump to conclusions." "I saw the transfer, Ethan. I saw the hotel confirmation. The Maldives. With Dana." He exhaled sharply. "Okay. That wasn't what it looked like." I laughed. It came out wrong. Bitter, cracked, like glass underfoot. "Then tell me what it was." He hesitated. "She needed help. She was going through some things, and You stole my IVF money to take my sister to paradise?" "It was a loan. I was going to put it back. We were just getting away. It wasn't meant to hurt you." I felt something in me fracture. "You think that's better?" "She needed someone," he said, quieter now. "And I didn't know how to talk to you anymore. You've been so consumed with the baby stuff and..." "The baby stuff?" I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just hung up. Not because I was finished, but because if I stayed on the line, I would start begging, and I had begged enough. I tried calling Dana next. No answer. Texted. Nothing. The message was delivered, read, ignored. She had always been impulsive. But this was silence soaked in shame. Or worse, in pride. The next few days moved like sludge. I didn't eat, didn't shower. I lay curled on the couch beneath the soft green throw my mother had crocheted before she passed. I stared at the vision, board on the wall above the kitchen counter, still covered in ultrasound cutouts, baby name ideas, and quotes about motherhood. You were made to do this. Dreams grow here. I couldn't bring myself to tear it down. Couldn't move. My body ached in strange places. My chest pulsed like it was trying to push something out. A scream, maybe, or a sob I couldn't make. The apartment grew dark, even in daylight. I watched the shadows shift across the hardwood floor like ghosts keeping watch. Then came the photo. I wasn't tagged. Not directly. It was a relative, some cousin from Dana's side I barely knew, who posted it. A blurry shot from behind, a white gown billowing in the breeze, her hair up in soft curls. Ethan in a linen shirt holding her waist. The ocean glistening like they were gods on a postcard. A beautiful, intimate ceremony for 2 beautiful people. Love always wins. Secret wedding. Maldives magic. I stared at the caption for a long time. Love always wins. Is that what this was? Love? Was it love when he watched me cry into pillows over failed cycles, knowing he'd already given up? Was it love when she hugged me after every negative test, knowing she'd already taken my future for herself? I didn't know what it was, but it wasn't love, and it certainly wasn't magic. I printed the photo the next morning, walked down to the pharmacy in sweatpants and a hoodie, printed it in full color, glossy. The cashier gave me a strange look. I didn't care. I bought a frame, a simple one, black wood, clean edges. Back at the apartment, I placed the framed photo in the center of my kitchen table, right next to the mug that still had my untouched tea in it from the day the money disappeared. I stared at it, let it burn a hole through me. Most people would think that was masochistic. Maybe it was. But I needed it there, not as punishment, but as proof. Proof that it happened. Proof that I wasn't crazy, or dramatic, or difficult. All the words people throw at women when we begin to question betrayal. That frame became my armor, my reminder. Every time I walked by it, I whispered, "Remember this, don't let it be rewritten." 3 days later, I opened the drawer in my nightstand. Inside was a bottle of blue orchid perfume, the one I bought when I hit my savings goal, the one I promised I'd wear the day I became a mother. I stared at it for a long time. Then I walked into the bathroom, twisted the cap off, and poured it slowly down the sink. The scent rose around me like a ghost. Clean, floral, hopeful. And then it was gone. I watched the last of it swirl down the drain, then turned off the tap. No rage. No drama. Just the quiet understanding that something had ended, and something else was waiting to begin. I left before sunrise. No goodbyes. No forwarding address. Just 2 duffel bags, a half-finished journal, and a hoodie zipped all the way to my chin. The drive was long, quiet, unremarkable, which is exactly what I needed. I followed back roads that carved between sleepy farmlands and salt-kissed air. I didn't play music. I didn't call anyone. I let the silence fill the car like breath after a scream. 2 hours later, I pulled into a small coastal town I hadn't visited since childhood. The kind of place with no franchises, no fast lanes. Just one cafe, a general store, and a peeling white sign that read, Stillwater Motel. Weekly rates available. I parked. The woman behind the desk wore a denim apron and gardening gloves smudged with soil. Her name tag said, Lee. She looked at me, really looked at me, and asked, "Running from something or running to something?" I opened my mouth to lie, but instead I said, "Both." She didn't ask for more, just handed me the key. Room 6, corner unit, view of the garden. The room smelled like lemon cleaner and sea salt. Nothing fancy. Just a twin bed, chipped dresser, a window that squeaked when you opened it. It was perfect. That first night, I sat on the floor and unpacked slowly, one item at a time. My journal, a worn hoodie, a photograph of me as a child, holding a daisy, and the frame. The one with the photo of Ethan and Dana. I didn't smash it, didn't burn it. I placed it face down in the drawer and closed it. Not forgotten, just paused. The next morning, I woke before dawn and walked to the ocean. It was bitterly cold, the kind of cold that bites your skin and reminds you what it means to feel. I stripped down to my tank top and leggings, stepped into the surf, and waded in until the water swallowed me whole. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I floated. Let the salt sting every wound I hadn't admitted to yet. When I emerged, shaking and breathless, something in me had quieted. Lee kept bees. I learned that on day 3, when I saw her in the backyard, full suit, slow movements, smoke curling from a tiny can in her hand. She also grew herbs: lavender, rosemary, thyme. She told me the bees liked the rosemary best. She didn't ask questions, just handed me a trowel one morning and said, "If your hands hurt, that's how you know you're doing it right." So, I gardened. Not because I wanted to, because I didn't know what else to do with my grief. So I planted things, I pulled weeds, I let the sun darken my shoulders and the dirt wedge into my nails. It was the first time in months my body did something that wasn't about loss. I started journaling again, not in the neat, hopeful handwriting I once used when tracking ovulation or meal plans. No, this was messy, angry, raw, full of curse words and crossed-out sentences. I wrote pages about rage, about silence, about the kind of betrayal that doesn't scream, just whispers behind your back while you're trying to build a future. Sometimes I'd write just one line over and over. I didn't deserve that. I didn't deserve that. I didn't deserve that. Other days, I wrote letters to the baby I never had. Not goodbye letters, just conversations. Like, "You were my favorite idea. My almost. My miracle that never came." Lee never pried. But she noticed things. She'd leave tea on my doorstep when I looked pale. Lavender when I couldn't sleep. Ginger when I skipped meals. One night, we sat on the back steps watching the stars. She poured wine into chipped mugs and said, "Grief doesn't always shout. Sometimes it just folds us." I nodded. Then I said, "I thought I missed them. But I think I just missed me." And she looked at me like that was the most honest thing anyone had said in a long time. One afternoon, I found an old rose bush in the corner of the garden, dying, brittle, barely holding on. I asked if I could try to revive it. Lee shrugged. "It's yours now." I started watering it, cutting away the dead parts, talking to it like it was someone who'd survived something too. Every day I checked it. And every day it stood a little taller. So did I. I stopped checking social media. I stopped wondering if they'd come looking for me. I stopped dreaming about Ethan's hands or Dana's laugh. Instead, I started remembering who I used to be, before loss made my name smaller in my own mouth, before I believed that love meant choosing everyone else first. I remembered that I once loved thunderstorms, that I once painted, that I once believed in miracles, not because they were guaranteed, but because I had the hope to try. 3 weeks. After I arrived, the rosebush bloomed. Just one flower, red, trembling, imperfect. I knelt beside it and cried. Not because of what I'd lost, but because something had finally lived. I returned to the city under a different kind of sky. The same skyline welcomed me, its glittering edges, its soundless promise. But I no longer moved through it as a woman unraveling. I moved with purpose now, like smoke returning to fire. I stayed in a short-term rental, clean, anonymous, beige walls, no history. Just a quiet place with a window that faced nothing and a desk where I could start over. This wasn't a comeback. This was a calculation. The first person I called was Eva Maddox, a financial analyst I'd met years ago at a seminar for women, entrepreneurs. She had once said something I never forgot. You can survive betrayal, but you take your power back by tracing every dollar they thought you wouldn't notice. She met me over coffee in a side street cafe where no one knew my name. I slid the laptop across the table. I need to know where it all went, I said. Every cent. She opened the file. Her eyes narrowed. They were sloppy. It didn't take long. Within days, Eva uncovered a network of transfers, shell accounts, small withdrawals disguised as consulting payments, a fake LLC tied to my name, listed as a silent partner in an investment firm that didn't exist beyond a digital footprint. My IVF fund hadn't just disappeared. It had been laundered. He had used me to move the money. My stomach churned, but I didn't break. I sat there, sipped my coffee, and took notes. "Can we build a case?" I asked. Eva closed the laptop. "We can build a war." I started researching fraud law late at night, reading case studies like bedtime stories. I learned the difference between misappropriation and theft, the thresholds for felony embezzlement, how digital intent was harder to hide than most people thought. Meanwhile, I opened a new journal. Not for grief this time. This was a ledger, a blueprint, a quiet, unfolding strategy. And on the front cover, in block letters, I wrote, "This is not revenge. This is reclamation." Dana made it easier than I expected. A week later, she posted a photo, pregnant belly barely showing, hand resting gently atop it. Her caption read, "Manifesting dreams. Can't wait to meet you, little one." She wore a necklace in that photo, a gold teardrop pendant I had given her the year Mom died. It wasn't just the betrayal that stung anymore. It was the audacity to post like nothing happened, to parade the future she stole from me, funded with my desperation. I didn't comment, didn't message, just saved the photo, time-stamped it, and added it to my evidence file. There was a sort of peace in becoming methodical. I wasn't crying anymore. I was documenting. Once Eva finalized the financials, we filed civil fraud charges and initiated a suit for embezzlement and identity misuse. She advised me not to go public, but I couldn't stay silent. So I created something new. A blog. Anonymous. Sharp. Intimate. I called it The Unspent Life. It began as a place to tell my story, vaguely at first. A woman loses everything. A woman builds again. But the more I wrote, the more women found me. And they shared their stories too, of husbands who drained college funds, sisters who sabotaged inheritance, families who used silence as currency. I began organizing resources, legal steps, financial literacy tools, healing rituals. The blog spread like wildfire. It was shared in forums, tagged in podcasts, reposted on Facebook groups for women rebuilding after betrayal. Some called it cathartic. Some called it dangerous. But it was never about them. It was about us. I stopped being the woman left behind, became the woman people asked for advice. The woman who hosted anonymous Zoom circles for women transferring funds from shared accounts into protected ones. The woman who taught others how to pull their own paper trails. One day, someone emailed, "Me, your words made me leave. Your steps gave me a plan. You saved my life." I stared at that message for hours. Then I cried. Not because I was broken anymore, but because someone saw me. Really saw me. And it wasn't Ethan. It wasn't Dana. It was me. By the time the court date was set, I wasn't nervous. I was ready. I met with Eva twice a week. We rehearsed everything. Timelines, statements, declarations of intent. I had built my case not from vengeance, but from truth. Truth, when given time, becomes a weapon no one sees coming. The rosebush in the garden back at Lee's, it had bloomed again. 2 flowers this time. She sent me a picture. "You're growing too," she wrote. I kept that photo in my bag. I bought a dress for court. Not black, too predictable. Not red, too bitter. I wore slate gray, clean, sharp, like a storm that knew exactly where it was going. I wore no perfume, no jewelry, just a pin on my lapel, a silver leaf, simple and quiet, like me. They didn't see it coming, not Ethan, not Dana, but I did, because I built it, line by line, dollar by dollar, day by day, because pain taught me patience. and silence taught me how to hear myself again. I arrived at the courthouse just before 9 a.m. The air was crisp, the kind of April chill that pretends to be spring, but still bites through your sleeves. I wore pale blue, not because I wanted to stand out, but because I didn't want to hide. Black was too heavy, red was too loud. But blue? Blue was soft and unflinching, like water before it becomes ice. My heels clicked against the marble floor, each step measured. I passed the security check, past the crowd, walked into the courtroom like I belonged there. Not as a victim, not as a witness, but as someone who had already survived. Ethan was already seated at the defendant's table. He looked like he always did when he was cornered. Charming smile, crisp collar, eyes darting like a child looking for a way out of trouble. Dana sat behind him. Pale, tight-lipped, one hand resting over her stomach. She didn't look at me. Not once. The hearing began. Eva presented our case like a seasoned conductor guiding a symphony of receipts, statements, and legal precedents. I sat still as stone, letting the truth speak louder than any outburst ever could. Ethan's attorney tried to spin it, said the funds were commingled, that intent was unclear, that it was all a misunderstanding among family. But when the judge asked Ethan to speak, he hesitated. Then he said the words that told me he still didn't understand. I never thought she'd take it this far. Not, I'm sorry, not, I was wrong. Just surprise, as if I was the betrayal. When it was my turn, I stood up slowly, walked to the stand. They asked me if I had a statement. I nodded. Then I read. This isn't just about money. It's about the years I spent believing I wasn't enough. The nights I stayed awake wondering why my body wouldn't give us a child, while he was already building a future with someone else. It's about the silence, the gaslighting, the way they made me feel like I was the problem, for wanting too much, for asking too many questions, for hoping. This is about a sister who held my hand during fertility treatments, and then used the savings from those treatments to buy herself a white dress and a honeymoon. But mostly, this is about what I reclaimed. My voice, my story, myself. I didn't come here for revenge. I came for recognition. And I hope, I truly hope, that whatever you built together breaks under the weight of what you stole. I folded the paper and stepped down. The courtroom was silent. Even the judge looked shaken. It took less than 15 minutes to rule in my favor. Fraud, restitution, damages. My name cleared from the fake accounts. The court ordered them to pay back every dollar, with interest. But the numbers didn't matter. The win was never in the money. It was in me. I stepped outside to sun I hadn't noticed was shining. The courthouse doors closed behind me, and I exhaled like I hadn't in months. Maybe years, and then I heard her. Amelia. Wait. Dana's voice, soft, uncertain. I turned. She was standing at the top of the courthouse steps, hands trembling, the same necklace still around her neck. We didn't mean for it to happen. Like this, she said. Her voice cracked on the last word. I looked at her, really looked, and said calmly, "No one ever does." Then I turned and walked away. I didn't look back. I drove straight to the coast, to Stillwater, to the garden behind the motel, where Lee was waiting with gloves and a trowel and a small rosebush she had picked out just for this day. "She's delicate," she said, handing it to me, "but strong." I knelt in the soil, still wearing the blue dress, and began to dig. The air was soft with spring. A breeze moved through the lavender. Bees hovered nearby, uninterested in the past. Lee handed me a matchbook and a small candle. "I think you're ready," she said. I lit it, placed it near the rosebush, and whispered, Not to Ethan, not to Dana, but to the part of me I left behind. I'm sorry you were alone, but I'm here now. I let the candle burn down to its waxy stem, then I buried it beside the rose. A life I once wanted, a life I now release. I didn't get the baby, but I got something else. Roots. And from roots you can grow anything.